Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to explain the CloudTrail resources we are using in AWS. So let's move to the agenda and see what are the topics I will be covering in this video. So the first thing is what is CloudTrail, why we need CloudTrail, key features of CloudTrail, how this works, what are the benefits of CloudTrail, and what are the key components, and what are the log events. And we can also see some real world use cases that we use in CloudTrails. And last we also see the advantages and disadvantages of AWS CloudTrail. So yes, what is CloudTrail? So it's basically provided by Amazon uh, to enhance the visibility of the account availability, and it enables the governance compliance and risk auditing as well as the management auditing for the AWS account for the AWS environment. And it's a powerful tools that track all the account level and the resource level activity within an AWS environment. This tracking makes it possible to monitor the actions taken by users, roles, and AWS services, ensuring transparency and accountability. So the next thing is why cloud trial. So in today's world, business agility is the needed. Now every company wants business agility. So you think about what is business agility. Business agility means to achieve something business goals by certain period of time, which is completely improving your efficiency, and it shorten the time you taken to complete one job, and therefore it's improving the organization efficiency. So now what the CloudTrail does is CloudTrail required robust monitoring and tracking to manage resources, ensuring compliance and maintain security. And it also offers a solution to track all the APIs activity, enable administrator to stay informed about every action performed, and it simplify operational analysis and troubleshooting. So it is a service which directly contribute to achieving a business goals. So yes, the next thing is features of AWS clouds. In this, sorry. In this, the first one is multi-regional. So when it's come to multi-regional, what do you mean by multi-regional? So it can be configured to log events from multiple AWS regions in your accounts. The benefits are it provides centralized visibility across regions, useful for global organization that operates in multiple AWS region, ensure compliance and security are maintained everywhere, every across region. So the next thing is event history. So when it comes to event history, it provides a detailed record of all API calls and account activity known as an event history. So what are the benefits of event history? It track actions such as a resource creation, and it can be a deletion and modification. It helps troubleshoot issue by identifying what changes were made by whom, enable security teams to analyze and investigate the incidents. So the next thing is file encryption. The logs captured by CloudTrails are securely encrypted before being sorted, typically in an S3 bucket. And the advantages of benefits of this is it protects sensitive log data from unauthorized access, support encryptions standards such as AWS key management services, that is KMS, for enhanced security. And it also ensure with industry regulation requiring data protection. And the last thing is file integrity. So CloudTrail ensured that the log files are not tampered with by providing a log file integrity validation. And the benefits are it verify the authenticity of log files, and it helps in organization met regulatory requirements by proving that the logs are complete and unaltered, useful in legal or forensic scenarios where log integrity is crucial. So yes, the next thing is how the cloud trials are works. In this, the image illustrates the workflow of how the cloud works. The first we have is activity occurs. What happens in activity occurs? Any action taken within your AWS resources, whether through the AWS management consoles, APIs, or a command line interfaces, is recorded. For example, creating an EC2 instance, uploading security group rules, and deleting S3 buckets. This is the example activity for activity occurs. So the next thing is we have here is records and capture the activity. What happens in this? The CloudTrail capture the details of every API call and actions as event records. So in this we have action performed, that means API call or a console action, user detail who performed the actions, time when the actions is occurred, location where the action originated, the IP address. So the next thing is we have a view or downloaded the activity. What happens here? The events are stored in a specific Amazon S3 bucket for centralized storage. The additional feature of this is logs can be encrypted using AWS KMS to protect sensitive data. Logs from multiple AWS regions can be stored in a single bucket. So the last thing is, so the next thing we can define S3 buckets, and the last thing we have are logs of CloudTrail events. Here logs are retained in the S3 buckets, allowing long-term storage and retrieval. So it also perform compliance checks, analyze historical activity data from audits or security investigations, and third-party tools or AWS services like Amazon Antenna for querying the logs. So this is how the cloud trials will work. So the summary of the workflow is, so I have already told you the activity occurs when API calls or console action is initiated. Records activity, it captures the action of an event. View or download activities, it's accessible by console or downloadable from S3. Define S3 buckets, logs are securely delivered and stored in S3 buckets. Logs of the events, it's retained for analysis and troubleshooting. So let's understand the what are the CloudTrail benefits. So the first thing we have is enhance security. It's provide a detailed audit trial of all actions, helping to detect and prevent unauthorized access and anomalous behaviors. So means it prevent and detect from the unauthorized access. So the next thing we have is cost optimization. So it's enable detailed tracking of resource usage, helping identify and eliminate unnecessary cost. From the unnecessary cost, it will help us. So the next we have simplified auditing. Helps organization maintains with industry regulations by providing logs that capture every actions on a AWS platforms. So it provides a logs. The last we have a troubleshooting. It assists issue by offering a comprehensive view of what happened and who initiate each changes, make it easier to find the root cause of the problem. We can also troubleshoot those things here. So it's an essential tool for security, compliance, cost management, and operation excellence in the cloud. So the next we have a key component of AWS CloudTrail. So it has a several components that enable logging, monitoring, and analysis of the account activity. So here we have a three: trial, event categories, and insights. So when it's come to a trial, what it does? A trial is a configuration that enables CloudTrail to deliver captured event logs to a specific destination. So what are the destination options of the trial? So it's Amazon S3 buckets for a long-term storage, Amazon CloudWatch logs for real-time monitoring and a notification. And what are the trial scope. It's a single region and a multi-region. In single region, logs only activities is one specific region, but in multiple region, tracks and logs event across all region. When it's come to an example, a company creates a trial to send logs of all activities in its AWS account to any encrypted S3 bucket named audit logs. So the next we have is event category. It's classified event into a distinct categories to provide a detailed view of activity in our AWS environment. I'll explain in the future slide about the event categories. So the next thing we have is insight. So insight analysis activity pattern to detect unusual operational activity in our AWS account. For example, a sudden increase in failed login attempt is flagged by insights, enabling security terms to indicates. So what is log event in AWS CloudTrail? So it is an API call or user activity recorded by AWS CloudTrail. It logs provide detail of action taken within an AWS account, capturing the event triggered by AWS services, users, and roles. So, what are the types of cloud events? CloudTrail. It's have two main types. The first thing is we have a management event. So when it's come to a management event, so these events captured actions that manage AWS resources, for example, launching EC2 instance, modify IMA policies. Management events are high-level API calls that affect your AWS environment and a resource configuration. For example, we can create a bucket or create a EC2 instance, or we can delete a security groups, or we can delete a buckets, modify, put objects, or a run instance. So what are the use case of this? So it are audit compliance, track changes to critical resources like security groups, IAMA roles, and a EC2 instance. Security, detect unexpected modification to your AWS environment. The next type is data event. So data event provide detailed logs for specific AWS resources, primarily used for auditing user interaction with data in services like Amazon S3, Lambda, and others. For example, S3. Get object, accessing an object in an S3 bucket, put object, uploading a file to an S3 bucket. And in this we have a Lambda events, invoking functions, executing a Lambda functions. So in this we have two types of use cases. One is data access auditing and a security monitoring. When it's come to a data access auditing, it tracks access to sensitive data stored in S3 buckets or a Lambda invocations. Security monitoring detect unauthorized access or anomalous actions on data. The next type we have a insight event. So when it's come to insights, it's designed to detect unusual or abnormal activity by analyzing CloudTrail logs. These events capture anomalies based on usage patterns and are particularly useful for identifying potential security risk. For example, unusual API request volume, a sudden increases in an API request for resource creation or deletion when it's so sudden changes in a resource usage. So a large number of failed logins or unauthorized changes to a IAM policies. So use cases of this, it's security monitoring and optional operational monitoring. So when it's come to a security monitoring, it detects suspicious activities or a security threats. So operational monitoring identify abnormal API usage pattern that could impact system performance or a cost. So let's understand the real world use cases in various real world use cases, especially for monitoring, compliance and operational oversight. Below are some key uses have taken. So the first thing is The first thing here we have is security monitoring. It detects unauthorized API activity. Means so CloudTrail provides detailed logging of all API calls made within your AWS environment. This is essential for identifying any unauthorized or suspicious activity, helping security terms detects potential threats, anomalies, or breaches. For example, so unauthorized access attempt. Suppose a user or a server is attempting to access sensitive resources such as deleting the S3 buckets or modifying EC2 instance without the proper authorization. CloudTrail logs these events and provides detailed information such as the API addresses, user identity, and action taken. So when it's come to its benefits, it traces suspicious activity, and when identifies some tries to perform actions they should not, such as accessing or deleting data, and it also investigating the security incidents. Means quickly look up what happened, who did it, and when it occurred. So what are the example logs of these use cases? So it's action unauthorized S3 bucket deletion, event name deleted bucket, description logs if an user attempts to delete a bucket they do not have a permission to modify, user information, user identity, source IP, time of event. So the next we have is compliance auditing. So it's provide logs for regulatory compliance. So it's a valuable tool for regulating compliance, and it records every API call made with the AWS environment. These ensure that the organization can produce detailed logs for auditing purpose, which is essential for meeting industry standards and government regulations. So when it's come to a use case, meeting regulatory requirements, it allow organization to demonstrate by keeping track of all the activities that happen on their AWS account. For example, every time a user access a financial record stored in an S3 bucket, it will be logged and can be reviewed by auditors for compliance with data privacy regulations. So when it's come to its benefits, it's a long-term redundant. Means it stores logs in an encrypted S3 buckets, ensuring that the logs are safe and preserved for their purposes. So audit trails, it provide a detailed history of all the AWS account activities to facilitate audit by regulating bodies. Actions: user accessing S3 buckets, event name, get object, description logs access to sensitive data to ensure compliance with the data protection and the stats. So the next thing we have is operational monitoring. It track changes to our infrastructure. So it's a invaluable for tracking operational changes and monitoring infrastructures. So it helps DevOps team understand what changes were made to the environment, such as launching instance, changing security groups, or modifying network groups. So for example, monitoring changes to EC2 instance. When a new EC2 instance is launched, CloudTrail logs the API call, which includes important details such as the instance type, AMI ID, and security groups. These allow administrator to monitor who is making infrastructure changes, track deployment activities, and ensuring the best practices followed. And its benefits are track infrastructure changes and troubleshoot issues. When it's come to a track infrastructure changes, it understand what resources were changed, when they were modified, and by whom. So troubleshoots: if an issue arises, you can use cloud trial logs to identify that changes made the cloud has caused the problem. So let's understand the pros and cons of AWS trial. So when it's come to a cloud trial, it's an essential service for monitoring, auditing, and um, auditing AWS account activity. But like any services, it comes with its own advantages and limitations. Here an overviews of pros and cons of the AWS trial. So the first thing we have is compressive activity log. So the log all API calls made with your AWS environment, providing an record for every action performed across various AWS services like EC2 instance, S3 buckets, IAM policies, and etc. These includes operations done through AWS Management Console like command line interface, SKDS, and other AWS services. So the next thing advantages is security and risk management. So when it's come to the security and the risk management, the CloudTrail helps detect suspicious activity by logging every changes when it essential for identify security incidents. For example, unauthorized access or modification can be tracked back to user who performed them. This is the critical for compliance with security standards. So it's also integrate with the Amazon CloudWatch to trigger real-time alerts for anomalous or a potential harmful activities. So the next thing we have a complaints and a auditing. So it provides a robust trial of user actions which simplify the compliance auditing. Many organizations rely on CloudTrail for regulating requirements, ensuring that they can be produce historical logs for auditing purpose. Logs were stored securely in Amazon S3 and can be encrypted, which is often unnecessarily for compliance with the industry regulations. So the next thing we have is a optimization. So logs allow you to analyze resource uses patterns and identify inefficient or unused resources that could be impacting your cost. By examining the logs, you can optimize AWS resources and reduce unnecessary expenditure. Event search and analysis. These tools, such as Amazon Athena for querying cloud trial logs, enable user to search and analyze logs for troubleshooting, incident response purpose. You can also integrate control trial, cloud trial with AWS Lambda to automate certain response for a specific events. Troubleshooting and debugging. So when it's come to troubleshooting and debugging, CloudTrail help identify the root cause of issue by logging every action and interaction with AWS resources. For example, if an application fails, you can trace back the changes made to the environment that could have caused the issues. So cons of the AWS trial. The first thing we have is storage and cost overhead. CloudTrail itself a low cost service. The logs it generates and accumulate quickly and consume a significant amount of storage space in your S3 bucket over time. These may lead to additional cost for log storage, especially if logs are kept for extended periods. To manage cost, you may need to implement log retention policies or achieve older logs, which adds extra configuration and maintenance efforts. Complexity of management. When it's coming to managing cloud trial logs across multiple AWS accounts and regions can be become complex, especially for organization which a large or distributed AWS environment. You may need to configure multiple trial, apply filters, and aggregate logs across services, which requires a solid understanding of cloud trials configuration. Properly setting up cloud trial insights to detect anomalous requests, experience, and incorrect configurations could lead to mislead all alerts or unnecessary noises. So the next is limited real-time visibility. So log activity is near real time, but depending on the volume of events and the configuration, there may be slight delay in the log availability. This could affect the real time threat detection and a response if immediate action is required. For critical security incidents that require instantaneous actions and even deliver latency might not be fast enough. So the next we have is data volume and the log management. The volume of logs generated by CloudTrail can overwhelming, particularly for large organizations with complex AWS infrastructures. Managing these logs for efficient searching and filtering and retrieval can challenging without proper tools or processing in a places. Without proper filtering or a management, reviewing logs could become a time consuming task. And it is not fully real time for all AWS resources. So when CloudTrail are generally near real time, certain AWS services may have delayed logging due to internal AWS process. This means that critical actions might not be immediately visible or available for analysis, delaying incident responses in a specific cases. So let's go and see in a AWS account how to create a cloud trial. So let's demonstrate the cloud service. So let's open the cloud service. Sorry, cloud trial. So here we are going to look at API activity within our account. So in the left hand side, we have a dashboard. So currently in the dashboard that we have no any trials created and that we have not enabled the cloud trial insights. And we can look at the event and we can also see the event history here of everything that happened within an my account recently. So if I go to the event history, so here I get all the information of the API calls, the information of all the API calls made by some services and when it happens and what was the user, and it shows the what was the username and a event source and stuff like this. So it's quite interesting because we look at all the read only files event, or we can also rotate the write event. So like this read only file, so that means that are all the write events such as deleting the roles, deleting the policies. So if you um, give event name and type terminate instances, so it will show all the terminated instances with this filter. So we can see when instance were being deleted in a EC2, and you can see that the root right, these were deleted by the root one. This is how the event history will show of all the deleted EC2 instances. So if you want to see inside this, so click on instance. So this instance was deleted on November 25th 2024, and the event name is terminated instance. So scroll down, you can also see the event records, that it shows the event version, types, routes, and what are the access keys of this, and the region of these instances, and all the things will shown in this record. And here we also see the resource refer. So it's a resource type EC2 instance, all these instance and the resources name. And this is also we can see, and it's a request ID, event ID, what's the type of the event. This shows AWS API call. All these will shown in the events record. So go back. So you can also see that read only, and it should be in a true. So it will show you the details of the root access of the CloudTrail, and also the event history shown you the last 90 days of the management events. In the last 90 days, what all the performance has been done, it will show here. So the next thing we have is insight. So the CloudTrail insight is not enable, so it will additional charges will apply. So I am not creating a trial here for the insight one. So let's go to the trial and create a trial. So I am giving the name demo trial. We have a storage location to store the logs. So I already created a S3 bucket called CloudTrail. For that, I'll select that existing one. So browse. So here I have selected CloudTrail. Choose. So if you want existing, or you can create a new bucket itself. I'm going to create here. So logs file encryption, no, I don't want this. So log file validation should be enabled. So the cloud logs should be enabled. It will show the group name. So, and I'm creating a IAMA role. Yeah, I'm creating new one. So give the name cloud trial demo. The rest of the thing will be same. Click on next. So here we have a chosen log events. Here we need to choose the log event. So the first thing, we have a management event. In this we can create anything like EC2 instance, S3 buckets, AWS resources and all. The next thing we have it's a data event. Here's the log and the operation should performed and it will be showed. And in inside event, it's an unusual activity cause user behaviors in the account. So here I'm choosing 3. So it's management event should be API activity, it should be a read and a write activity. So when it's come to a data here we need to choose the resources, like I have to store the logs in a S3 bucket, so I'm choosing the X3 buckets. So the next thing, we have a insight event. This will apply a charges. So here I'm not using a data event and an insight event. So I'm checking this. I'm only using a management event. So click on next. So the trial name is demo trial and the log file will be enabled. So click on create trial. So the trial has been created. So go to the demo trial. So the link will be directed to the S3 bucket. So yes, the information logs has been created here. So when we come here, so the CloudWatch logs also been created. So let's go to the CloudWatch. Logs, we have logs group. So need to check. Yeah, it has been created. The cloud logs trial has been created. So this is how the cloud trials will work when we create it. So let's go and disable this one. Click on this. So click on delete. So the created trial has been deleted. So let's go and see whether it has been deleted in a CloudWatch or not. So this is how the things will work. You can delete this thing also. You can delete. The object has been deleted. So let's go and delete the buckets. So I need to empty the bucket. Yes, this is how the cloud trial works. Thank you.